like to start off this video by saying that the Chicago Bears are awful. Bears lose 25 to 41 against the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field on Sunday Night Football after the bye week. So as you may have realized for this video, I'm in a different room. I'm not in my dorm anymore. I am back in my actual room. I'm home for the holidays. So because of that, I am now with family, and I felt like it would only be necessary if I had my brother here for the reaction as well. So here he is, baby. The biggest Mitch Trubisky fan you'll ever meet.
That's right, amen. Got Mitch bum, he looked good, but he had his moments.
So the two of us, we sat and we were throwing a football around our street for about a good hour, talking about the keys to victory for the game. And surprisingly enough, we spent about half of that time talking about the defense, because most of the time you'd think that the offense is what needs to be talked about the most, but we were talking about the defense.
You're against Aaron Rodgers. When you're against Aaron Rodgers, your defense is what needs to step up.
And out of those points, how well did the Bears defense do?
Absolute goose egg. It looked like we were back under the coaching and tutelage of Mark Trestman. It was horrid.
I mean, that's easily the worst defensive performance this defense has put up.
2-3 years, dude. Since Nagy came in, that was the worst.
When was the last time the Bears defense let up 40-plus points?
I literally do not know.
I can't recall right now, because the most we'd let up before that point, if I remember correctly, was 26 against Atlanta and New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. And, you saw these two guys. These two guys hit the connection twice. But Kmet, Robinson both dropped end zone catches. I mean, Kmet, I know you're a rookie, dude, but you got to catch that ball. It's
and that was early in the game, drive. Too.
You got to, because that changes the whole momentum. If you're up first, like if you're up after 2 drives, it helps.
Especially against the Green Bay Packers, too.
Yeah, you need those early victories, but, we were sitting there oh man, they missed the extra point. This could come back and bite them. It didn't matter. But if we went up 7-6, and
it could have changed the whole momentum. And speaking of momentum and how stuff like that, because that shifted, because the defense let up a long drive. It took about a half a quarter, and then Packers had, I think, 3 drives in the first half, and they scored a touchdown on all of them. And they weren't 3-minute drives. They were long drives.
The Bears at the end of the first half, I think maybe had 4 or 5 minutes of possession time.
It was unbelievable. And we only came up with 10 points.
Yeah.
That last drive in the first half looked pretty good in terms of the offensive. That was the best that the offense had looked in terms of a drive down the field in a while. Mm-hmm. Real quick before you go ahead, and if you're going back to momentum, a lot of people I've heard, a lot of people say about the egregious face mask call with the fumble return for a touchdown. And people saying oh, stop crying, you only lose by 20. And you got to realize that we keep the ball, and it's now, instead of a 24...
If you assume we score a touchdown.
If you assume we score a touchdown there on that drive, instead of it being a 24-point game, 27-3... it becomes a 10 to 20. It becomes a 10 to 20 game. It's a 10-point game. It switches momentum a bunch. It's a lot more than you realize. So saying that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, and I understand some of the logic is but the face mask isn't what let Aaron Rodgers get 6 seconds in the pocket. I understand that, but it still is just. And I mean, you can't. Every ref is different, so you can't blame all officiating as a whole. But that specific crew, it was definitely some ref ball there. And I'm not going to say, favored Packers or but just, a missed call. And I can't say I know every single rule, but I don't know, man. You should have gone back and made that call, because I just think that was a really bad call.
It was.
I mean, if you look at the play, what happened is he gets face mask and he loses the ball when Zadarius Smith, I believe who it was, who forced the fumble.
Yep.
He got his right arm on the face mask, and then his left arm comes around to make the tackle, and that's what hits the ball out. It's hard to tell because there's 2 guys in there.
Yeah.
But they both get a piece of his face mask, and I don't know. I mean, you could point out this there, this then. You could be like, well, it's like Aaron Rodgers got a face mask for that one finger against the Lions. That same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can play with those like, but it's a different crew. Different crew. It's just the way it is. But, it was really a shame. And that one, the fumble was less Mitch's fault. But, I'm not, as much as I'd love to defend everything he does, he threw 2 picks. The second one was a really bad throw, really underthrown. First one, it was overthrown into double coverage. Shouldn't have tried to make the throw, but Darnell Mooney just let it go. He didn't even try to make a play on it, which obviously is a rookie mistake. It's something you learn as your time in the league. But Mitch Trubisky should not have thrown that ball.
Now, for me personally, instead of blaming that touchdown on Trubisky, I blame it on the defense because the Packers would have, because that's a touchback. Packers have to go 75, 80 yards to go and put that in the end zone, and the defense let them drive it there.
Yeah.
Where if the defense was playing like it has all year, they would have forced him to punt. They forced him to punt twice in the entire game. I think they had 7 drives, 2 punts, 5 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Another moment to look at there with that is just the defensive play was really sloppy. I mean, they came out early and like it or not, they're smart freaking guys. They know what they're doing. They go, all right, we're going to attack Buster Screen. We're going to make the linebackers. We're going to stop the linebackers. We're going to attack Buster Screen and the slot, middle of the field. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but they did not throw to the edge a lot. Devontae Adams had his biggest plays in the slot.
Yep. And he didn't even have a fantastic game. There was nothing for Lazard or MVS.
Well, Lazard got dropped.
Well, yeah, Lazard did get injured.
But it was
granted. But regardless, he only was targeted a few times.
Yeah, but you go okay, well, but then there's plays where it was the Tanyan touchdown, or was it Tanyan?
Yeah, it was Tanyan.
He just literally was wide open, and it literally looked like they were just in practice. They were just shredding the defense. They looked horrible. There was no discipline. And they were, it was just insulting, the Packers. They would go for it on 4th down. Anytime a team is in the middle of the game when they're up, if you're going for 4th down on more than 4th and inches or 4th and 1, it's just insulting. Because you trust you think the defense is that bad.
Yeah.
But they got it every time.
Yeah, they went for it, I think, 3 or 4 times, and they got it every single time. And being a Bears fan at this point, or at least for me, I kind of expected at this point because of it being Aaron Rodgers against the Bears. He does it every single game, and it has to be basically a miracle if we win it at all.
Yeah.
Or have a chance. And even if we have a chance, we'll have a lead late, and he just pulls off some garbage to give him a win.
The key word you said, just lead the turnover battle. You look at when we beat them in 2018, Eddie Jackson picks them off on their last drive. We made those plays back then that gave us that edge.
We lost turnover battle, I think, 3-0.
Yeah, I believe. 2 picks and a fumble.
Yep, 2 picks and a fumble. And again, I've said it pretty much all year. There are times where this offense looks pretty good, but at the same time, there's times when this offense looks horrendous, and it goes back to inconsistency.
Well, if I have notes to say about the offense, one, even though I'm a Mitch fanboy, it's if you have eyes and you can see, it's so apparent that Mitch is better for this offense right now. Granted, offensive line, moving that around, best decision. We allowed the least amount of pressures last night. Granted, there was a play or two on a crucial, I forget if it was a 3rd down or it was the fumble. It was a crucial play, and the offensive line collapsed in 2.5 seconds. Mm-hmm. So, it has its moments, but obviously, much better. Mustafa nor Bars let up a pressure last night. 2 rookies. Absolutely incredible. I love Mustafa. I want to keep him in at center. But my main points, one, is Trubisky's better fit. There was play. He was just pocket collapsed. He checked all of his receivers. No one was open, and he ran for the 1st down. And he was able to get that because he's Trubisky and he can move his legs like that. If you ever saw Nick run, it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch.
It was lethargic.
He kind of just barely moved and then slid at the 1 yard line, or after gaining maybe a yard. So obviously there's that, and with the offensive line, you can't put Nick Foles in there, especially after his injury. But what's more important is we realized, one, having Tariq Cohen gone has sucked, but more or less, Montgomery is a huge deal, and he just played like crazy last night.
We are realizing how important the run game is, not necessarily only because it's been so bad this year, but because and partially because it sucked because Montgomery has not had the same level of production last year because of offensive line.
Well, yeah, the offensive line switch definitely.
And Tariq Cohen got injured.
Yes, it definitely switched it up for him. But then if you don't run your defense becomes your offense becomes one dimensional. But more importantly than that, with Montgomery, I believe he only got 11 carries and rushed for like over 100 yards. I'm 90% positive that is. I know he rushed for over 100.
And we broke our longest play of the year.
Yeah.
It was 50 when Foles hit Mooney against New Orleans, and now it's 57 with the opening run from Montgomery.
And you can't say, like, you could say, oh, well, without that run, it'd be different. But he made that play, and he worked for that run. And I think one of the biggest mistakes we did was abandon the run. If you look at our 3-and-out drives, the reason they went 3-and-out because it was pass, pass, pass. I just don't think abandoning the run, especially when we actually were productive on the run. I mean, he was getting these 8 yards, not like 6 yards, 7 yards. I mean, he was killing it.
He continues to be among the top in terms of broken tackles.
Yeah.
So even if the offensive line collapses, he's still able to manage.
He's
usually a yard or two if something like that happens.
Well, and his best quality, in my opinion, and he has very few negative plays. Even if the line collapses, he usually gets a yard or nothing. He never takes negative plays because he will always give it his all. And I think we just need to feed him the rock more. I feel like Montgomery deserves at very minimum 15 a game, if not more, if not 17, if not. I feel like we need to get him the ball more. And next season when we get Tariq back, it'll be great. But Patterson is just not a rusher, and
because the way he runs is like a kickoff.
Well, Patterson's just not good up the middle, or Patterson needs to find open space. If Patterson is open space, he's extremely dangerous. Oh, yeah. That's why he's good on the kickoff, because he can read the situation. But like right off of up the middle, it's just his vision is good, but the problem is he's just not as explosive.
That's not his forte.
And obviously, we need to, if we want to keep running the ball, we have to change the scheme. We can't just run it up the middle every time. You see it same with Montgomery. If he gets in some open space and he's one-on-one, he's dangerous because he breaks so many tackles and he is really quick on his feet. And the Bears looked like they had some old 2018 Nagy. Like, it's been 2 years and he's regressed so much from his play style, his play calling, or the scheming. We saw it. I believe we were on the 3-yard line. And you see 4 people lined up. You see Montgomery, Robinson. It's Montgomery, Robinson, Kmet, and Graham, I believe. And
then he throws a screen to Montgomery and he goes in for a TD.
Easy TD, because what you did there is you set up, unlike a lot of the screen passes we run, it was a great blocking scheme. You had it set up there, but there was only 3 guys over there. They were trying to get a linebacker over, but we snapped the play. So it was 3 people, which means as long as each blocker did their one-on-one, which they did, he gets in. And it's a well-designed play, and I feel like we need to do more like that instead of these, run up the middle and then get 2. Like, if running up the middle doesn't work, do something different, I'm not saying, that's the problem, is, we see it sometimes, the way I see it, it's just it's like we run up the middle a couple times, doesn't work, and then we abandon the run. It's like, go outside. God forbid, but try a pitch. It might work. But you have to have the offensive line to set it up.
Exactly.
And, Montgomery looked great off the line, and I feel like if he doesn't get, hell, I would give him 20 carries. I think if we gave him 20 carries, we could win games. So Trubisky's he made some, you do have to cut him some slack. First game back against the Packers, we put him in a big spot
on national television.
But I mean, if I'm Matt Nagy, you go offensive look much more productive.
Yes.
Offense looked productive, and actually, when you balanced out the offense, you went runs and passes, and it worked, and it did well.
Take what you did in the fourth quarter. Sure, maybe the Packers were playing a little easier or putting their second strings in, but look at what you did in the fourth quarter when you put those, or just even look at the 3 touchdowns. Right? Can you believe it? We scored 3 touchdowns in a game.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
It's the way the offense needs to start running is just these short passes.
We don't need to be flashy.
Yeah, we don't need to go for 10 yards. And if we're gonna pass 3 downs in a row, pass it for 4. When with this Bears team, I've noticed if the ball gets out in under 3 seconds, there's our most likelihood of a completion. Mm-hmm. That's when the ball gets caught the most. There was a rare moment where Robinson, I believe, dropped it, and it was a quick out route, or maybe it was overthrown. I can't remember, but it's those are the plays that work. Little like runs. If you can get to if you're ending your drives or your stints in 3rd and 3 plus 3rd and 3, like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, that's good. Mm-hmm. You can get even if you can start 2nd and 7, then you can get like
positive yards.
That's why I don't like. I don't know. You can't obviously always run on first down because then it becomes predictable. But I like the idea of running on 1st or 2nd. Or at first, because then it allows you to work a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Run quick routes. I mean, you saw with Robinson on his touchdown catch. I mean, like, he was just there. He was just sitting there. Broke at the zone. I think that's really where we shine is... I love Alvin Robinson in the slot, running him a quick little slant. I think it's great. And, I don't know. I just feel like that's what works for us, and we need to stop trying to be something we're not. I feel like that was Matt Nagy's problem for so long.
And that's, I think, what's continuing to happen because if you look at the history of the Chicago Bears, what's the best quarterback that we've had? Statistically, it's Jay Cutler. Success-wise, it's definitely Sig Luckman, who played in the 40s. So there's a constant, and you look in the history of the Bears versus the Packers. Packers have all the passing wideouts and the quarterbacks. The Bears have had the defense and the run game. I think if we were able to stick to that, I feel like that could be... Because I feel like Nagy's trying to get with the times in a sense and try to pass the ball more. But if you use the run game enough, you can be just as effective.
Well, he's trying to run an Andy Reid offense. He's trying to run the Mahomes offense or the Alex Smith offense,
which does not fit for this offense, mainly because we just straight up don't have the talent that the Chiefs offense has. Another thing you mentioned before the game: don't ever rush 3.
Because if Aaron Rodgers has enough time, he will find somewhere to put it.
Yes, somewhere
where it can be caught.
And if you're even going to prepare for this, you got to remember, because the deep ball, no matter how many people you put on a player, he's going to find a way to find it. Because if you remember against their game against the Colts, which they lost, in the final drive of the game, Rodgers on 3rd and 10 heaves a perfect ball only in triple coverage, only where MVS can catch that ball. Mm-hmm. Literally the only team. It was literally the perfect throw, as he had the arc that it came down, so that it was basically just right there when he was running. It was a perfect throw, and he just does it week in, week out.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you want to say, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a very talented guy. He's a great arm. And it's interesting. There was some comments from Matt LaFleur after the game where he said he didn't like the way Jalen Johnson stood over Lazard after he made that big hit. But you have to remember, he stood over him, didn't talk shit, just stood there. And LaFleur was crying about it. And I just think that's horrible.
And he's got to remember, earlier in the game, who was it? Was it Darnell Savage who held up Darnell Mooney?
Picked him up.
And then Kevin King just socked him, and they didn't even call a flag.
I don't think he made contact. He was trying... He was trying to get the ball out, but it was already whistled dead, and that's...
Come on, don't even start with that garbage.
It was whistled dead, and I just think it's...
Such an instigating play.
Look,
it's plays
I
like
will
that.
never attack the Packers organization. As much as I dislike the team, they're a great organization with great history.
And it's also awesome to see, a city own a team too as well. It's the way that the Packers exist and the way that they exist in the market that they exist in is phenomenal. It's actually, the way that the franchise has survived is fantastic. Yeah. The team itself, I despise.
So going forward, we have Detroit, we have Houston, we have the Minnesota, Jacksonville?
Yep, at Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. And Green Bay. So realistically, we can beat the Lions, we can beat the Packers, or we can beat the Lions, we can beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, we can beat the Houston Texans, we can beat the Vikings. Can we beat the Packers twice? I think if you look at purely talent of the team, not looking at whatever the situation, the mindset, we should win 4 of these 5. But this is the second year in a row Nagy's gone on a 4-game losing streak. This time 5, so it's a problem.
Anyways, I have continued to do this over and over again, where I just say I'm going to end it, and then just go off on another 5-minute tangent. So I'm going to stop it here. If you like this, go ahead and leave it a like. Hit that subscribe button, because who knows, they might actually make it. And I will see you guys next week against Detroit.